Hi, and welcome to another video by Jim the Car Guy. Today we have a 2010, it's a Nissan Murano, and we're going to be changing the front brake pads and rotors, and we're going to be changing the back brake pads and rotors. Now the reason, you're going to look at these brake pads and you're going to say, why is he changing these brake pads? This customer had brakes done a while back, I'm not sure exactly when, but they had it done by another shop who gave him a really good price. And you know, usually when you get something at a really good price, they're cutting corners somewhere. They used a very poor quality brake pad. I'm going to show you what they did actually. They packed the back of the brake pad itself with grease or some kind of a anti-rattle or squeak or whatever it is. But needless to say, it did not work. The rotors themselves are actually in really poor condition, especially the right rear and the right front. With those, you can actually see the heat spots in the rotor from when they actually didn't machine them and they just threw pads on it without doing anything. So I am going to replace everything. So let me bring you in. I'm going to show you what it looks like, what kind of tools we're going to need, and then we're going to get started, get this job done, and out the door today by the end of the day. It's probably around 11 o'clock right now, so we'll get this out by this afternoon. So, all right, let me show you what it looks like, and we're going to get started. Okay, now this is the rotor, and as you can see, or maybe you can't see, you can see the rust on the rotor here. It's also rusted really big time in the back over here. Let's see if you can see it back here as well. You can see right down inside here where this shield here is actually touching into the rust on the bottom and up on the top right here as well. What they did, they used a very poor quality brake pad, and what they did is they put some kind of grease or something on the back of it to try to reduce the squeaking. So what we're going to do is we're going to change the brake pads itself. We're going to change the rotor. We're going to clean up the hub right here, and we will change the hardware in here as well. All right, let's take a look in the back, and I'll show you what the back looks like as well. All right, this is the back, the right side rear as well. Now, I don't know if you can see the marks on here from the being out around, but you can see right on here how this has got these spots in it, these heat spots in here. That's why this is actually squeaking like crazy in the morning. Plus, there's a significant amount of rust on here as well, which is causing a noise from the brake pad. You can see they did the exact same thing on the brake pad back here. They coated it with some kind of grease to reduce the squeaking, but needless to say, that did not work. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to get started, and we're going to wrap this job up. So let's grab some tools. I'll show you what you need, and let's get to work. Okay, so let me explain to you what we're going to do first, and then we're going to get started on it. We're going to loosen up, this is a 14 millimeter bolt right here, the actual slide pin. So we're going to take out that 14 millimeter bolt. This 14 millimeter is not going to come out because you can see how close it is over here, but that really doesn't matter because we can just take the caliper and flip it down, and we can gain access to the bolts in the back. You may have to loosen it, but we'll see how that goes. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to come in here with a pry bar this way through the back right here, and we're going to push this piston back into the bore as far as it'll go. After we push that back in as far as it'll go, we'll take the brake pads out and we'll remove them from the car. Then we're going to come up underneath here, and you see this bolt right here, it's a 19 millimeter. We're going to take out that 19 millimeter there, and there's also a 19 millimeter down underneath here as well. Now as you can see, that 19 millimeter is very close to this arm right here, and it's going to make it very difficult to get in there. So what we're going to do is we're going to get in here with a 19 millimeter wrench, and we're going to break that loose, and we'll take that out. All right, so after we do that, we're going to take off this whole mounting bracket with the caliper. We're going to relocate it up to the top right here, and then we're going to pull off this rotor, and we'll put the new rotor on. So that's what we're going to do. We are going to take this little piece out right here because we need to reuse this on the new rotor. And this is an example of what kind of tools you're going to need. Now obviously we are going to change the brake pads. We do need a large ratchet, a 1/2-inch drive ratchet, or in this case a breaker bar to get the to break those bolts loose on the mounting bracket because they were extremely tight on the opposite side. Like I said, 19 millimeter. Our new brake pads, a new hardware kit for the brake caliper itself, or the mounting bracket I should say. a couple of wrenches, a 19 millimeter, 18 millimeter, a 14 and a 15. And I'm going to show you why. We are going to use the 15, but we are going to use the 14 on the bolt, but we're going to use that 15 to break it loose. So I'll show you how that goes. We're going to need a small pry bar like this, or possibly a screwdriver. If you don't have a pry bar, you can use a screwdriver. You may need a hook to hold the brake caliper out of the way. I don't think so, but maybe. We're going to need a file like this to clean off any kind of rust that's on the mounting bracket. We may not need that as well, but just in case, we're going to use our 14 millimeter socket along with a very long ratchet so we can actually get the leverage to break it loose. We are going to need some synthetic brake grease to put it back together, and just so you know, that's the brake grease right there. We are going to use some brake cleaner and a clean rag like this, which I did already, to clean up the face of the rotor because there was oil on here. When they ship it to you, it's got oil on it, so we cleaned it up really well. So we already cleaned that up. So all right, let's get set up and we'll continue. Okay, I'm hoping you're going to be able to see this okay, but we'll see how it goes. All right, now remember the first thing I told you we're going to do is we're going to come in here with a pry bar. You're going to put it in the back right through here until it protrudes out through this side, and you just keep slight pressure, just like that, and it pushes the piston back into the bore as far as it'll go. And then we'll go in the back over here and push it in the rest of the way, just like that. All right, so now our piston and brake pad is recessed in as far as it can go. We're going to take off the 14 millimeter bolt in the back here. Now we're just going to put this off to the side for now. We will come back and lubricate this later. We'll spin the caliper itself down like this. Take our brake pad out here. And take our brake pad out here as well. And now in the back, remember those two bolts I told you about in the back, the 19 millimeter? They are extremely tight, so we're going to break it loose with this breaker bar. Now, let me just show you this real quick here. So now we broke that bolt loose right there with the breaker bar. So that's broken loose. But that bolt right there, you see here? You can't get in there with a breaker bar because it's actually hitting right into that, you see? But we need to take that caliper mounting bracket off. So what we're going to do is you come in here with a wrench. Let me just put this up like this for now so you can see. We're going to put the wrench on that bolt just like this. And if you try to pull on this, this thing is so tight you can't break that loose unless you're Hercules, but it's really tight. But what I'm going to show you how to do now, let's see if you can see this. Okay, what you're going to do now is you're going to take your 18 millimeter, you have your 19 millimeter on there, put this on here like that, and now you have the additional leverage to break it loose, like that. And now you can break it loose and take it right out. All right, so we're going to fold this back down now. We're going to use our ratcheting wrench to take those bolts out up on the top now. But the key is that when you put these wrenches together, you put it together like this, and that will increase your leverage and get that to break loose. You're not going to get a 19 millimeter wrench, not that long that I'm aware of anyway. But this will give you a lot more leverage and make the job a lot easier, especially when you're, really tight. All right? Now, you can see I'm using a ratcheting wrench. It makes it a little bit easier. If you don't have a ratcheting wrench, it doesn't matter. You can use anything that you have, as long as you can get it out. And like I said, there's a washer on there. Make sure you don't lose it. Now we're going to take this. And we're just going to take this like this. And we'll pull this off just like that. Because this is the piece that we need to address. So we're just going to get a rag with some brake cleaner on it. Clean off any kind of dirty grease or whatever there's on there. And we're going to put this off to the side for now. Now this one sits right up on top here without a problem. But if it didn't, you could use a hook such as this to actually get in here like that and secure it up out of the way. But we don't need it in this case because we have our own little shelf right here for it to sit on. Now we're going to take this rotor off here. These usually come off. We just tap it a couple of times and we should be able to pop that off. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, you can see it's a little tight. We're going to put this pry bar in the back up against the mounting bracket that the caliper bracket mounted to. We're going to put it right up against the ear that this connects to. So we're going to put this on here like this, and then I'm going to take this hammer and I'm going to hit it right there to break it loose. So let me get you back a little further here. All right, ready? A little bit of pressure pulling out and tap it. And it comes right out. Let me just get you set up over here again. Okay. And then we take this off just like that. Now, remember we talked about this piece right here? We need to push that out. And the way you do that is just take a screwdriver like this, go into the back over here, and you push it out just like that, and we're going to keep this. Okay. Now, before we put our rotor back on, I just want to point this out to you. The reason that hole is right there is because we need to get into this piece right here. This is the star adjuster for the parking brakes. Let's put this rotor down for a minute. And what we're going to do is we're going to put the drum on, or the rotor I should say, which is actually partially a drum. And we're going to come in here with this tool, a screwdriver or whatever you have, and we're going to adjust this piece here up and down as needed to make that drum tight up against, I should say make the brake pads tighter up against the inner part of the rotor. All right? Now, before you do that though, we're going to come in here and this part right here, if there's any rust on here, this rust needs to come off. So this, you can see, is extremely rusty. We're going to come in here with a disc and we're going to clean this up here. And once we have this cleaned up, then we'll come back. All right, let me show you what I'm going to use. Okay, I'm going to use a disc such as this to clean it up. If you don't have a disc, you can use a scraper, you can use another scraper, you can use emery cloth, whatever you have to clean it up, you can use. So as long as this surface is clean, we'll be in good shape. So let me clean this up and then we'll come right back. Once you have this cleaned up, we're going to take our rotor and we're going to put it on just like this. And then we're going to adjust that star up in the top so we have a slight drag on the rotor. And now we have slight drag on the rotor, so the rotor is now on the way it's supposed to be. We're going to put that little tab back in there. Just like that. And just push it right back in. And that's it. All right, so that's on perfectly now. All right, next thing we're going to do, we're going to talk about this right here. These clips here have to come off. We're going to replace these with new ones. Any kind of rust that you have inside here, you'll need to clean that off at this point. We just pull this clip out as well. Just like that. And now we're going to clean up this area right inside here. Now, If you have a wire wheel, sorry. Okay, if you have a wire wheel, you'll clean it up with a wire wheel. If you don't have a wire wheel, you use a file, or you can use sandpaper, whatever you have, but you need to clean up all that rust that's inside here, just like this here. You want to clean that all off nice and clean. This way, this way, this way, and also right inside here. So I'm going to take this over on the bench. I'm going to clean this up, and once I have it cleaned up, I'm going to come back and we'll continue. Okay, so once you have it all cleaned up, you're going to take a very little bead of grease, just like this, and you're going to put it on this mounting bracket where your hardware kit is going to attach, just like that. And we're going to take our hardware, we're going to put it over the top just like this, and we're going to push it down until it snaps in where it belongs, just like that. Okay? Now, if you're not sure if it's in all the way, you could take a screwdriver and just tap it down just to make sure it's in. Make sure your tabs are in right there. I don't know if you can see that. Make sure that your tabs are lined up. Let's see. Can you see that? Right there. Make sure they're in all the way. All right, same thing on this one here. We're going to take these, put it over the top. Those are the tabs I'm talking about right there. Put it over the top and just push it down. All right. You're not sure if it's in all the way. Tap it in just like that. All right, now, so this now is pretty much done. We're just going to put a little bit of silicone here where the brake pad is going to touch, just like that. Right? You don't need a lot, just a little bit. All right, now, I want to point this out as well. These are the brake pads that came off the vehicle, as you know. This one is the inner brake pad. You can tell because there it is. The piston was touching right on this point here. And this one is the outer one. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take our brake pads and we're going to put the brake pads into the mounting bracket. Now you could put these brake pads into the mounting bracket now, or you could put it in later, whatever works for you. But I'm going to show you how they go. Just like this and like this. And that's how the brake pad is going to go, just like that. Now these should slide nice and freely back and forth. If they don't slide freely in here, then you must have some more rust inside there and you'll need to clean that rust off. It's imperative that these brakes slide nice and free just the way they are right now. Otherwise you're going to wind up with a binding issue and you're going to have a pulsating brake pedal. All right, so that one, you could put it in either now or you could put it in later on. So let me just show you the inner pad. This one here, as you can see, this piece here is what they call a disc indicator. This disc indicator goes on the other side, not on this side. This one only has the indicator on the one side, the right side rear. The left side rear does not have it. All right, I'm going to take the brake pad here like this, and you can see it goes in just like that. That's how the brake pads go. Okay, now like I said, you could do this later or you could do it now, whatever works for you. I am going to put these down on the side for now because they're going to be a little bit difficult to do because of the mounting bracket going back together. Hey, how are you? Now, before we put this back together, we're just going to put a little bit of silicone on this pin here. Remember, we cleaned this up before, just like this. Doesn't have to be a lot, just a little bit. And now remember, the mounting bracket. It was that pin was on the bottom, so we're going to put it back together just like this, right? And now we'll put this in here. And we're just going to hold this temporarily, just like that. And now we're going to put our bolts in and we're going to catch them both loosely. It's very important that you catch both of the bolts by a couple of threads before you try to tighten anything up. Otherwise, if you try to tighten it, you're going to wind up with one of the bolts being a little bit off and you're not going to get it to screw in. All right, so now we're going to tighten it up. Now, I just want to point this out to you. There is torque specs on those 19mm bolts on there. So let me look it up. I'm going to torque them and then we're going to come right back. Okay, so now we have everything torqued on with the mounting bracket. We're going to put our brake pads back into there as we had them before and just slide right in like that. And like that. Let's go light over here so you can see. Like that. Now, any place that is going to touch up against this brake pad here, we're going to lubricate. So the back of the piston right here, we're going to lubricate that, because otherwise you may get a little bit of a squeaking noise when it applies. Just a little bit. The tabs right here that are going to touch into it as well. So now we lubricated the piston here, and we lubricated these outer parts here. Now we're going to lift this up like this. We're going to grab the other bolt, but we're going to get some new gloves first. It's nice when you take your gloves off, you throw them away, you put a new pair on, and you're good to go again. Okay, now, we took this bolt out before, remember? And we sprayed this rag with some brake cleaner, and we're going to clean off all of the grease, the old grease that's on this bolt. And we're going to put a little bit. Now you see this has a rubber on there. We don't want to put any grease on this end of the rubber, on that side of it, because otherwise you'll wind up with an air block inside there, and you'll push this in, it'll push right back out. So put the grease on this portion here and this part of the rubber, just a little bit. You don't need a lot, just a little bit. This will keep it from freezing up at all or rusting up, and it'll make it slide nice and easy. So now we're going to push our caliper over the top of the mounting bracket. We're just going to push that little rubber boot right there around just so we can get it over it. We're going to push this in here. Now we're going to take our ratchet and we're going to tighten that bolt up. Sometimes that bolt's a little tight to get in, but if you just keep pressure on it, it'll tighten right up. Always check it to make sure it's tight, just to play it safe. And that's it. This side is finished. So let's just talk about what we did. Okay. All right, so what we did is we cleaned up the face where the rotor is going to go, make sure all the rust was off of there, which we did. We put our rotor on. We adjusted our parking brake with that little screwdriver, remember, through this little notch here. After we have it adjusted, we put that back in there, that little plug, to keep any kind of water or debris from going in there. We put our new hardware on the mounting bracket right here. We cleaned off all of the rust, and we lubricated every place that the hardware kit is going to mount to, both on top of it and below it where the brake pad goes. We lubricated everywhere the brake pad goes. We tightened up that millimeter, that 19 millimeter, and that 19 millimeter. We torqued them in place. We put our brake pads in. We lubricated everywhere that the brake pad is going to touch, including the piston back in there. And we tightened up our two 14 millimeter bolts. That's it, the back is done. Okay, so the back brakes are done. We are going to put the other side on, the right rear. We're going to put that back together before we proceed and go up to the front. But if you are continuing with me to go to the front, you don't have to worry about this. But if you were doing just the rear brakes, at this point when you put the brakes in the back of it, when you put the brakes on the right rear, you want to get in the vehicle and you want to pump that brake pedal about 4 or 5 times to bring that brake pedal up to the top. The reason you have to pump that brake pedal is because you push that piston all the way back in. When you push that piston back in, this way, when you push that piston back inside, you need to push that piston back out to touch into the brake pad. That's why you need to get in the vehicle and pump the brake a couple of times. You're going to notice the first time you step on it, it's going to go pretty much right to the floor, and you're going to think you screwed up something. You didn't. That's just a normal procedure. Pump it 4 or 5 times, comes right up on the top. And that's it. You're ready to drive it. But if you're staying with me for the front, get yourself a cup of coffee and then come on back and we'll start on the front in a couple of minutes. So, all right, let's get up to the front.